Skinny fat is the most confusing position to be in, but today we're fixing that so you know exactly what to do. This is the same approach we use with T, Ellie, Cameraman Cookie, and many, many others. So number one, what is skinny fat and why is it confusing? Now, first of all, it is super confusing because you don't have a lot of weight to lose, but you don't have enough muscle to get that toned look that you want. This usually happens when you've mainly focused on just losing weight and not losing body fat. Well, the good news is it is actually not a bad spot to be in, although you might be thinking, fuck off Alex, it is a terrible spot, but it enables you to build muscle and lose body fat at the same time. By the way, for reference, this is about 1/2 kilo of body fat and this is about 1/2 kilo of muscle, just so you know what they are. And this leads me to the next point. Number two, your training approach. So now we're getting into how do we actually fix it. The first thing is we need to focus more on weight training than cardio. And this is an absolute must so you can build more muscle, which is gonna break you out of that skinny fat look and help get the defined tone look that you want. Little side note as well, if you do look at some people or have friends or people online or whatever, and you're like, they don't really weight train as much, but they don't have the skinny fat look, genetics do have a lot to play with this as well. Some people just build muscle a lot easier. Just even with their day-to-day life, they have an active role. Some people will just have a little bit more muscle than others. And unfortunately, if your genetics aren't like that, that is where you end up with the skinny fat look. So we need to combat that with a good weight training program to build the muscle. Now, in terms of your training, you want to be hitting the gym bare minimum 3 times a week to fix this skinny fat look. Ideally, a little bit more. I think if you can hit 4, you're going to get much better results than only going 3, but 3 is still going to get the job done. Of course, if you can train 5 times a week and you enjoy weight training and you want to, 5 times even better. As long as you're having minimum 1 rest day, you'll be totally sweet. And if you're having 2 rest days, that's also good. That's also good. Does that make sense? Same. Just train 3 to 5 times a week, you'll be golden. Now, in those training sessions, this is super key, and it's a massive mistake that I see a lot of newbies and people in this skinny fat not doing, and that is using progressive overload, but actually tracking it. So don't go into the gym this week thinking, oh, I'll be able to remember everything I did last week, because especially as you get stronger, you get more advanced, you do start building some muscle, you're not gonna be able to remember, did I get 12 reps or 13 reps last week? And the difference between making really good progress and just like, okay progress is the difference between like every week trying to get an extra rep or going up the next notch on the weight rack or the next dumbbell or whatever the increased weight is. Basically making sure each week and month you are either doing slightly more reps with the same weight or you're adding weight to the movement. Without doing that, you're just gonna get minimal stimulus to your muscles. And if you make some progress and then you kind of just wing it and you don't actually ever apply progressive overload, your muscles then have no reason to adapt and get bigger, meaning that you'll just stay stuck in that skinny fat look, or you won't get fully out of it to the next level physique that you want. Now, if you are already doing cardio and you love it, I wouldn't say stop doing cardio. It's great for your heart health, but just shift the primary focus to weight training. So just weave the cardio in throughout the week on your rest days, or you can do it on the same day, but you don't want to do it before the weight training. Ideally, you do the weights first and then cardio after. And that's just because then you can put more of your energy into the weights and it will help a lot. Now, the last note on that, if you do not like weight training or resistance training, I'm just going to be brutally honest, it's going to be insanely hard to break out of that skinny fat look. Just be honest with you, I don't think it will happen unless you do some form of resistance training. So try to find some type of training that you enjoy, or force yourself to start enjoying it, or just commit to it, because I think what happens is once you start to see the progress, you start to see it change, even if you don't like it at the start, that's when you'll really start to enjoy it. For example, when I first started MMA, it's not that I didn't like it, I did enjoy it, but definitely not as much as weight training, and that's simply because I was so shit at it and I was so bad that I just felt so uncomfortable. So I know what it's like if you've never weight trained before. When you go in, you're gonna feel so uncomfortable, you're gonna be like, what does this movement do? What is that machine? Is everyone looking at me? I promise they're not. They don't care, they just care about themselves, which is totally fine. And then once you actually start getting used to it and you start to see the progress physically and with your strength, that's when you start enjoying it. I found the better you get at it, the more you start to enjoy it. So you just got to push through what I call that uncomfortable phase, which honestly could only be like a couple weeks. For some people, it could only be a week, and then you're sweet. Hopefully that helps. Number 3 is the nutrition formula. This is probably the biggest mistake that I see people making. So with the nutrition formula, we need to be easy. We need to be in a calorie deficit. Now, how big that deficit is depends on how much fat you have to lose or how fast you want to go. Ideally, a moderate deficit will get the job done, and then we need to be eating high protein. Now, the reason that we need to be in a calorie deficit is to lose the fat. So if we think about it, what we're saying for skinny fat, we need to lose this. It's impossible to lose body fat without being in a calorie deficit. Don't care what anyone tells you. It's physically impossible. So we need to be in a small calorie deficit, but we're going to be able to build muscle at the same time. Remember what we spoke about at the start if we set this up correctly. So with your deficit, around Around 15 to 20%, I think you'll be totally sweet below your maintenance calories. If you don't know how to figure it out, I'll just put my calculator in the description, plug your details in there, click lose body fat, and that will give you a good starting guide of calories, and protein is the main thing to focus on. Now with that protein target, if you want to figure it out manually yourself, you want to be having at least 1.6 grams per kilogram of your body weight. Honestly, even up to like 2.2 grams per kilogram of your body weight, because when you're skinny fat, we want to utilize that protein and that muscle building as much as possible. So I think it's super important, because the protein will not only help you build muscle, but it will help you maintain all the muscle you have as well, especially while being in a deficit. Also, the higher protein intake in your deficit is going to help keep you fuller, which means you'll be able to stick to the deficit easier. It also increases the thermic effect of food slightly, which basically means when you eat protein, your body uses more calories to digest that protein compared to carbs and fats. So therefore, you do burn a little bit more calories each day eating a high protein diet compared to not. Hopefully that makes sense. And very, very important to note that, one sec, when you are in a calorie deficit and trying to hit a high protein diet, that doesn't mean you need to eat chicken and broccoli 6 times a day. Like for example, this overnight Weet-Bix meal prep, I prepped 4 of these in like literally 4 or 5 minutes. This has just under 40 grams of protein and it's only about 400 calories. Maybe it was less, hey, 396. Yeah, I'll chuck it up on the screen for you so you can give it a try. This tastes absolutely bomb, by the way, and I prepped them in under 5 minutes. So that's the type of meals you want to be eating in the deficit, because it's going to allow you to stick to it. It's going to allow you to enjoy the food as much as possible, and it's going to hit those macro needs that we need. So the calorie deficit plus the high protein to fix the skinny fat look. I don't know, man. Number 4 is tracking your progress the right way. So the first thing you want to avoid before we even go into how to track the progress properly is comparing your progress, because I see this happen with clients all the time, comparing your progress to someone that needs to lose 20 plus kilos. If you only need to lose 5 to 7 and you're in that skinny fat look, like we said at the start, you don't have a lot of weight to lose. We just need to lose some body fat and build some more muscle. But someone with 20 plus kilos to lose, they're going to drop weight so much faster than you. So if your friend or your family member or your work colleague or something doesn't have the same goal of fixing skinny fat, they're just trying to lose weight, maybe they are trying to build muscle as well, they're going to lose weight much faster. So if you're comparing your scale weight progress to theirs, you're going to get quite disheartened. The other thing with skinny fat is you can get some really good body recomposition changes, meaning the way you actually look, without too much movement on the scale. So I've seen some of our clients, I'll chuck up some examples for you, and even cameraman cooks, you can drop just a few kilos, maybe 4 or 5, and it looks dramatically different. It could look like 10. And that is the benefit of losing the body fat and building muscle at the same time. Now, how to actually track your progress accurately. So the first thing is we are going to track the scale weight, because it is going to help give us good data. So you want to weigh yourself first thing in the morning, empty stomach, no clothes. If you put a jumper on, it can add a kilo to the scale, and I've tested this multiple times. If you start sculling water, it can add a few hundred grams, half a kilo to the scale, and it's pretty easy to forget that stuff. Watch me gain a kilo in 30 seconds. Was a little chilly this morning, so I forgot and I chucked the jumper on first. So, first thing in the morning, empty stomach, no clothes, jump on the scale, write it down, and track it 3 to 7 times per week. That way, you're gonna get the weekly average, and you're gonna compare that to your previous week's average and your previous week and so on, and you're only ever gonna compare the previous week's average. You're never gonna jump on the scale on Friday, compare it to last Friday. That's the fastest way to fuck with your mind. And it's also not accurate data, which means you can make a wrong decision by, oh, I need to lower my calories, when really maybe you lost half a kilo of fat on average that week, but you just tracked wrong, and then you lower your calories when you don't need to. So now we've got that out of the way. Then the second form is probably more important, but just as important. That doesn't make sense. More important, but just as important. The second form of tracking your progress is progress pics. Now, with the skinny fat goal, I'm trying to fix this, I personally recommend taking them every single week, because you can see good noticeable changes on a weekly basis, especially if you're going at it quite hard. Minimum every fortnight, but just take them front, side, and back relaxed. Try to get them same time of day and same lighting if you can. The next thing to track is, of course, you're going to track your calories and your protein, which we already spoke about, and then you're going to track your gym lift. So how much weight you're doing for how many reps. Track all that stuff, you'll be absolutely golden. You'll make better decisions every single week because you'll actually have good data. And side note, doing this by yourself, I actually do recommend setting yourself a little weekly check-in, same time every week. So say Friday, or say whatever day you want, Sunday. Look at your week, look at your data, look at your compliance, pretend like you're coaching yourself. So how compliant were you this week? Meaning, out of 100%, did you hit your calories every day? Did you hit your protein every day? Did you go over? Did Did you eat out? If so, how many times? Really important to like note that stuff down, because then you can look at it and you can make the right decisions of like, well, I didn't make too much progress this week, but I did eat out 2 times and the feeds were pretty high calories. So maybe I ate more calories this week than I think. Okay, well, I still made progress, so I don't need to adjust my calories just yet. That stuff's pretty important. But anyways, hopefully that made sense. Cameraman Cook's giving me the nod of approval, which means it makes sense. Number 5 is the timeline and expectations. Of course, everyone's going to be slightly different. Depends how much fat you have to lose. It depends, you know, how much experience you have, how accurate you are with your tracking, all those type of things. But generally speaking, to really like break out of that skinny fat look, I would give yourself at least 12 weeks, maybe even 16. Minimum 12. Like I said though, you will start to see progress and changes along the way. Like for example, Cameraman Cooks will show you his weekly pics coming up on screen now. Like you can see how good the changes are almost on a weekly and bi-weekly basis, and that can be super motivating to look at those. But then if you look at it over a 12 week and then a 16 week, it can be pretty crazy if you stick it out. It's important to remember that patience with the skinny fat look will beat the aggressive approach, super restricted calories every single time, because you're not going to be able to stick to that. And if you really undershoot your calories, so let's say you should be eating 2000 to lose body fat, build muscle, and you go straight to like 1200 calories, your training is going to be dog shit. Your recovery is going to be dog shit. The chances of injury risk go higher, which means you're going to build muscle very, very slowly, probably not at all, because you're barely going to be scratching the surface. So don't go fully fad diet mode and you'll be sweet. And recovery.
Just as important, if not more.
Yeah, focus on the sleep as well. That's a little bonus tip. Focus on your sleep. Try to get at least 7 hours, ideally 8 if you can.
Water.
Bit of water. Cameraman Cook says I've got cooks on the water.
I feel so much stronger and better. Like,
Mans used to drink about a glass of water a day. Not even joking. Now I got him drinking like at least 3 liters.
Yeah.
And his strength's just gone through the roof. And he's in a deficit right now, so learn from Cameraman Cooks. And honestly, that is the main keys you need, those 5 things. As you can see, it's pretty simple, just moderate calorie deficit, high protein, high training, the good stuff, the usual stuff, but I promise that is the skinny fat fix. I did forget to touch on, some people will say online, you wanna go into a surplus to build more muscle. You don't wanna do that. You're gonna put on more body fat if you do that. Yes, you will build more muscle, but you will put on more body fat. So if you do wanna get leaner and lose the body fat, fix the look, get the tone defined look that you want, I just said look like 50 times, go into a deficit. If you're like, Alex, I don't really care about putting on a bit more body fat as long as I put on more muscle, then it's fine to go into a surplus. But you won't get any leaner doing that. And that's all I have for this video. Hopefully that was helpful. I promise that will help fix the skinny fat look. And if you need help navigating social events whilst you're in that deficit fixing the skinny fat look, then check out this video here. I think that will help.